Hey, I'm Fucci and welcome to Tiny Kitchen Big Taste. We have got a nuttery, buttery good show for you today. We're making a roasted butternut squash soup. So we're kicking off Thanksgiving and chill month here on TKBT, where we're making some great fixings and trimmings in advance so that on Thanksgiving Day you can actually give thanks and chill. You know, not stress out, relax, and just have a good time. So let's get roasting on this fantastic soup. What do you say? We bring it. Gobble gobble. So what you're gonna need is a butternut squash, chicken stock or vegetable stock, olive oil, a carrot, shallot, garlic, sage, salt and pepper, honey, butter, cinnamon and nutmeg, and for toppings, candy pecans and Greek yogurt, which are optional. You'll also need a large pot, an immersion blender or regular blender, a baking sheet, silicone baking mat, silicone spatula, and a sharp knife. Soup, 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 soup. Hey, nothing screams soup quite like a chilly fall day. Funny enough though, I was never a huge fan of soup growing up, unless of course a grilled cheese sandwich was involved. But that all changed when I started waiting tables at Posto Ristorante in Sherman Oaks. I got to taste some really amazing soups that had so many different levels of flavors. Now, one of my favorites was a butternut squash soup. And this one's perfect for Thanksgiving because really you can make it a couple days in advance and just heat it up on Thanksgiving Day. That gives you some extra time to work on your turkey or whatever else you're cooking. So how do we do it? Well, we get started by cutting up our shallot, take off the end that is not the root, and then just slice it vertically, making sure not to pierce the root. Give it a quarter turn, and then slice off the perfect mince. Set it aside, we'll use these later. Next, I'm going to pick off some of our leaves of fresh sage. Now, you should be able to find fresh sage in the grocery store, but if you can't, you can use the dried stuff, although I do prefer the fresh sage because we're going to fry it up. It makes a great little garnish at the end. We can set this on our plate. Next, we're going to roast our butternut squash. Really easy to do. We're just going to take off the end of the squash, and then I'm going to slice it right in half lengthwise. There we go. Voila! Then we'll just scoop out these seeds because we won't want any of those in there. Be gone! Just got to use a little elbow grease. Scrape the seeds out of the second one. We'll place our squash on our baking sheet and then we can cut our carrot. We're going to take off the ends and then we'll just roughly chop it into 4 pieces. Put that on our plate. And then we bring our squash back and we can season this with some olive oil, some salt, and pepper. And then our little roasting trick, I'm going to place our carrots inside the butternut squash as well as our garlic that we're keeping in the paper. This will allow them to roast without burning. And then I'm going to carefully turn over our squash so it's cut side down, and we can pop this in a 425-degree oven for upwards of an hour until it's nice and tender. Round and round and round it goes. Where it stops, nobody knows. Where's the garlic? Where's the garlic? Pick it, pick it. Oh, busted. There it is under here. Well, we can place our carrots and our garlic on a separate plate, and these are cool enough to touch, obviously. We're just going to scrape out the meat of the butternut squash, place it on our plate. Roasting is a really easy way to separate the skin from the meat. That's why I like to do it. Makes it a little easier. We've got our butternut squash all peeled. Next, we're gonna just cut off the end of the garlic and then we can just squeeze out this great roasted garlic. Put it on our plate and we can head back to the stove. We've got our pot over medium-high heat. I'm gonna throw in some olive oil. We'll bring this up to temperature and then we'll carefully place our sage leaves in the oil. They're going to start crackling and sizzling. We'll fry these up. Now this is going to infuse the oil with some great sage flavor. It's also going to crisp them up so they'll make a nice garnish on top. As you can see, they start to get translucent. We'll just flip them over and then we'll hit it with a little bit of salt just to season them up. Then we can take them out and just place them on a plate. So we're going to turn down the heat to medium and then we'll add our shallots. We'll hit those with a little bit of salt. We're going to saute them until they're translucent and they start to soften. And then we can add our squash and our carrots and our little piece of garlic. And mix that up. Then I'm going to add some chicken stock. Now you can use vegetable stock if you want to keep it vegetarian, by all means, but I'm using chicken stock. Next we're going to hit it with our immersion blender. If you don't have one of these, you can use a regular blender. Just work in batches, not filling the blender up too much, because when you get a hot liquid in a blender, it tends to explode, so that's why we're using the immersion blender. If it's too thick, you can add a little bit more stock. Next, we're going to add a little bit of cinnamon and nutmeg. Continue to blend. And I'm going to give it a little taste to see if it's sweet enough. Those carrots bring some great sweetness to it, but I also like to add a little bit of honey. This helps to sweeten it up without making it overly sweet. I'm going to add a little bit more salt. Give it a final blend. Now at this point, if you're making this for Thanksgiving, go ahead and put it in the refrigerator and just keep it chilled until you're ready to use it. Bring it out on Thanksgiving Day, bring it up to temperature. Now just pretend like it's Thanksgiving Day now, that it's already up to temperature. Right before you're ready to serve, we're gonna add butter and we'll let that melt in the soup and then we'll plate it up. So check out this soup. I finished it off by putting some Greek yogurt in a Ziploc bag, just snipped off the tip so I could make a fancy design on top. Laid our fried sage leaves on there and then finished it off with some candied pecans. The recipe for the pecans and the soup are available on our website. You can also check us out at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And when you try this recipe, please let us know about it in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. Until next time, I'm Fucci, reminding you that if I can make a roasted butternut squash soup in a kitchen this tiny, you can make it in yours. We'll see you next time on Tiny Kitchen, Big Taste. That is buttery, nuttery good. Nothing screams soup quite like a chilly fall day, unless, of course, you forget your lines. Levels of flavors, level of flavors.